Basically, the doctrine is GMS ain't right. These niggas, the crux to their whole doctrine is basically y'all GMS niggas ain't right, or fuck GMS. Basically, the doctrine is fuck GMS, right?
Greetings. This is Abu Khamar al-Masihi on behalf of Truth After Knowledge. Now, before I get into the subject of this video, I want to set the tone by noting a couple of comments which were posted on past Truth After Knowledge videos. You can see the two comments on your screen. The first one dates all the way back to 2009 and was posted by a gentleman writing under the name False Prophet Killer, and was posted to the last video we did on Great Millstone's Scrambled Calendar for our old account. We had made several videos refuting and exposing GMS's twisted calendar, and False Prophet Killer humorously noted that by the fifth video it was like we were beating a dead horse. The second comment is from a gentleman writing under the name Prophet613, and he posted that on one of our most recent videos. In that comment, Prophet expressed surprise that members of GMS would post video footage in which they cut themselves. The reason why I bring up these two comments is because in this video I would like to look at some footage from GMS which is quite relevant to both comments. First, because the recent clip that I'm about to show demonstrates that the so-called elders of Great Millstone still have more to learn about the calendar, and second, because it provides a great example of them cutting themselves without even knowing it. The clip is from last February, and as you watch it, keep in mind that Tahar is going over Leviticus 23:15 and 16, that he's acknowledging that the text is stating that 7 consecutive Sabbaths plus a day amounts to 50 days. Here's the clip.
And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
Okay, that's the first fruit. All right, it said after that Sabbath you should count to you 7 Sabbaths. So that's 49 days. Then after that last Sabbath you add the next day, and that becomes a special day. So it's 50 days in all, right? Read that part again about the Sabbaths. Go ahead.
It says, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord.
It says 7 Sabbaths. That's why I say weeks with an S. How many weeks? 7 weeks. Then the day after that last day became 50 days. You had your 47 weeks or 7 Sabbaths represent 49 days. Then the day following makes it the 50th day. That's why in Acts the 2nd chapter they use the term Pentecost, which is a Greek term meaning 50 for what? The first fruit. That's when they received the spiritual power.
Okay, in our very first video on Great Millstone's poor sense of chronology, which was made for our previous account, we noted precisely this passage along with Deuteronomy 16:9, because together they show that it's possible for 7 consecutive Sabbaths to correspond with 7 consecutive weeks and equal 49 days. Now, the reason why this is significant is because it serves as a refutation of Great Millstone's Lunar Sabbath doctrine, though amazingly they couldn't see it even as they were reading the passage from Leviticus. Now, note that the Septuagint version of the passage in Leviticus translates the relevant phrase as weeks rather than Sabbaths. In fact, it employs the exact same phrase in both passages, as you can see here. This is also the case with other ancient translations like the Latin Vulgate, and it's also the case with modern translations like the NIV and various others. In other words, the text is using the word Sabbath somewhat indirectly as interchangeable with weeks. The text means 7 weeks, and the reason the word Sabbath can be used in this way is because in a system where every 7th day, such as every Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, is a Sabbath, it's possible for 7 Sabbaths to add up to 49 days. However, such is not possible on the Lunar Sabbath system endorsed by Great Millstone. Let me repeat that. to be as clear as possible. The Bible presupposes a situation where it's possible for 7 consecutive Sabbaths to amount to 49 days. That sort of situation is possible under the system where Friday sundown to Saturday sundown is a Sabbath. That sort of situation, however, is not possible under Great Millstone's Lunar Sabbath system. Therefore, what Tahar failed to realize is that Leviticus 23 was presupposing a system like the Friday sundown to Saturday sundown system, where a Sabbath comes every 7th day. The passage in Leviticus 23 contradicts Great Millstone's Lunar Sabbath innovation. To show this, let's first note that according to the Lunar Sabbath doctrine, the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th day of each lunar month is a Sabbath. You can see Tahar alluding to this position in the doctrine here.
So the Sabbath falls on the first day of the new moon. Then it falls on the 7th day at evening, which is the 8th day. Then it falls on the 14th day at evening, which is the 15th day.
You can also hear Ariam Lab describe the same system in the following clip.
And it was connected to the moon on the 22nd, which by default causes the 8th, 15th, and 29th to also be Sabbaths. And he's correct. And we've, beginning with Elder Tahar, we've always said that. We've always said that the new moon is the first day of the month, which is the Sabbath. Matter of fact, I'll break it down for you like this. The new moon, which is the first day, which is the first Sabbath, right? So that's the first day. 6 days work shall be done, and then the 7th day is a Sabbath, right? So if the new moon is a Sabbath, which is the first day, and you do work 6 days, right? 1 and 6 is what? 7, right? So then the second Sabbath of the month would come in when? On the 8th day. Why? Because the new moon, day 1, Sabbath, 6 days work, right? That's 7 days. 6 and 1 is 7. Then the next day after the 6 days of work is a Sabbath, which is the 8th day. So the second Sabbath of the month would be 7 plus 1, which is 8. It says from the second Sabbath to the third is 7 more days, etc., 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 right? So then here you have it, right? So you have the first day, right, which is a Sabbath. Then 6 days work shall be done, and the 7th day shall be a Sabbath. So 1 plus 7 is 8, right? That's the next Sabbath after the new moon. 8 plus 7 is what? 15. That's the next Sabbath. 15 plus 7 is what? The 22nd day. That's another Sabbath. 22 plus 7 is what? 29 days. The 29th day, which is another Sabbath. Then from that point on, that's when the cycle would change, right?
Now, to offer an example, let's note that Great Millstone's version of the Hebrew lunar calendar for 2008 and 2009. Let's take a look at this. Note that according to Tahar, Passover begins on the 15th day of the month and ends 7 days later, which would correspond to the 22nd day of the month. Note further that Pentecost, or alternatively called First Fruits in the 2009 version of the calendar, falls exactly 50 days after that day, which Tahar cites as the end of Passover. So going by the Lunar Sabbath model, let's see if we can start at the 22nd day of the month, count 7 consecutive Sabbaths after that, and wind up with 49 days. Now note that the typical lunar month averages 29.5 days. More practically, let's just say that a lunar month is always either 29 days long or 30 days long. For the sake of making the experiment easier, and in a way which would benefit Tahar, as it would add more days to the count as we go along, let's presuppose for now that a lunar month is simply 30 days long. Okay, so let's start on the 22nd day of the month, which according to Tahar's calendar corresponds with the end of Passover. And from here we're going to count 7 consecutive Sabbaths. The next Sabbath is 7 days away and falls on the 29th day of the month. So that's 1 Sabbath and 7 days so far. However, note that we're now near the end of the month, and according to the Lunar Sabbath system, the next Sabbath will be the first day of the following month. Assuming the current month is 30 days long, the next Sabbath is only 2 days away. Thus we wind up on the first day of the following month and have now accumulated 2 Sabbaths, but only 9 days. The next Sabbath after that is 7 days away on the 8th day of the new month that we're in. Thus, when we go across 3 consecutive Sabbaths, we cover 16 days. The 4th consecutive Sabbath is on the 15th day and brings us to a total of 23 days. The 5th consecutive Sabbath is on the 22nd day of the month and brings us to a total of 30 days. The 6th consecutive Sabbath is on the 29th day of the month and brings our total to 37 days. But once again, we're near the end of the month. And again, presupposing the month is 30 days long, the next Sabbath is only 2 days away, on the first day of the month that comes after. Thus, at the 7th consecutive Sabbath, we have only collected 39 days. And that was presupposing that each month was 30 days long. If one of the months was 29 days long, we would have amassed only 38 days. And if both months were 29 days long, we would have amassed only 37 days. So I invite people to try it themselves. Try it yourself. Pick any day in the calendar and try to count 7 consecutive Sabbaths and see if you can ever reach 49 days on the Lunar Sabbath system. The only way 7 consecutive Sabbaths could add up to 49 days on the Lunar Sabbath model is if the number of days in a month were a multiple of 7 minus 1. In other words, if the months were 27 days long or 34 days long. But that's never the case. Months are always 29 or 30 days long, so you have these situations at the end of the month where one Sabbath is just a day or two away from the next Sabbath. So it's simply not possible on the Lunar Sabbath model for 7 consecutive Sabbaths to ever equal 49 days. With the Friday sundown to Saturday sundown system, however, it can be achieved. For example, if you start from a day which is itself a Sabbath. Okay, so let me repeat what I said earlier. On a system like the Friday sundown to Saturday sundown Sabbath, it is possible for 7 consecutive Sabbaths to equal 49 days. On the Lunar Sabbath model, endorsed by Great Millstone, it is not possible for 7 consecutive Sabbaths to ever equal 49 days. Therefore, the fact that, by Tahar's own admission, Leviticus 23 presupposes the possibility of 7 consecutive Sabbaths equal 49 days, that means that the so-called elders of Great Millstone cut their own Lunar Sabbath doctrine when they read that passage. They cut themselves without even knowing it. You know, Tahar can now either admit that the Lunar Sabbath doctrine is false, or if he's stubborn and obstinate, he can try to go the route that other Lunar Sabbatarians have gone, twisting and torturing the text and coming up with a silly new interpretation where, you know, one counts 7 Sabbaths from the Passover and then adds another 50 days on top of that, and then finally reaches Pentecost, you know, which would place Pentecost about 80 to 90 days after Passover rather than 50 days after Passover, you know. But that's pretty silly. Another possibility is for them to suddenly try to change their doctrine and now deny that the 29th day is a Sabbath. In other words, under this alternative system, the 22nd day of the month would be a Sabbath, and the next Sabbath would not be until the first day of the next month. The problem with that system is then there would be more than 6 days between those two Sabbaths. In other words, rather than having people work for 6 days and then rest, it could be 7 or 8 days between Sabbaths, depending on the month. Furthermore, even on that model, it would still be impossible to start specifically on a Sabbath, count 7 consecutive Sabbaths after that, and wind up with 49 days. For example, under a model where the 29th day is not a Sabbath, starting on the 22nd day of the month and then counting 7 consecutive Sabbaths after that would give one between 51 and 53 days, depending on the lengths of the months. Whatever the case, in the end, the reality is that Tahar got refuted by the very Bible he was reading from and didn't know it. What does this say about the claim that he's a prophet who has the true understanding of the scriptures? The fact that he would miss this obvious cut in the very text which is right under his nose shows that he's just bluffing when he makes such claims. He's not an actual prophet, and his understanding of the scriptures are not guided by God. Sorry.
Basically, the doctrine is the GMS ain't right. These niggas, the crux to their whole doctrine is basically, y'all GMS niggas ain't right. Or fuck GMS. Basically, the doctrine is fuck GMS, right?